indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for everyone here in person and on Zoom today. First, we will approve the public meeting minutes from the last meeting, November 12th. Which were sent around by Karen and are also nicely printed out. So if we want to take a minute and glance over them, or if anyone knows if they have any edits or comments.
Just a quick comment on there. I'm just gonna go with it. I just noticed reading through this when I did read through them, that a lot of the comments say questions were raised instead of actually who made the comment. And it kind of repeats, questions were raised about additional capacity, questions were raised regarding changes. And it'd be nice if it stated who brought that up as a board member. I don't think throughout most of it, it says which board member arised the question. So
we can certainly work on that. I know that she can't see the three of you over there. So that makes it a little difficult when the question comes from over there, but
is it helpful if we just say it, if whoever's doing the minutes are not going to be here?
well, let me introduce Kim.
Sure,
as our new
absolutely.
Student assessing administrative assistant. So she's going to be doing minutes going forward. So
That might change things.
that might change things. Yeah.
Just,
And I think she'll probably do most of them remotely, but she's here tonight to put faces to names and voices. So yeah, we're feeling it out as we go.
What is it, do you say your name before you speak? No? Okay.
Generally
I was
not.
suggesting that we do that.
just because this whole thing said questions arised.
There is also a very wandering conversation often in these meetings, and multiple people have multiple questions, and that's been Beverly's way of just kind of tying it all together and lumping it under kind of a discussion point as opposed to he said, she said. So I think that's, I know she's worked really hard on the minutes, and it's hard for her to sometimes follow the questioning and the,
I know how difficult it is to take minutes, and I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to negate
So-
that.
no.
That went into it. It just is nice too, when you're reading back, who made the comment.
We'll work on that for sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Just was a comment. How we doing?
All right, any other questions, comments about the minutes, concerns?
Motion to accept the
Thank you.
minutes as presented.
Seconded. All right, the motion's been moved and seconded. All in favor of approving the minutes as drafted, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Thank you. All right, so again, just to run through the agenda today, you have it in front of you, but first we are going to get a wonderful 15-ish minute presentation about the capital improvement program, which I'm excited for. We are then going to get a presentation from the of the town budget from Vicky. I think what we should do now that I'm reflecting on it is probably insert a public comment after the town budget presentation. And then we'll do the school update, and then we'll do another public comment. I think that usually works better to like tie public comments when we have like distinct topics like that. So that'll be the plan. And then we'll do other business and adjourn. Then we'll go home. So with that, should we get ready to the capital improvement plan?
Let's do it.
Perfect.
Thank you for having us tonight. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look through the presentation that some of you have already seen a good portion of. What I plan to do is
It's
whip
it's
through
not
the first-
it's not printed. It's in your computer. It's up here.
whip through the first few slides very quickly, just to give you an idea of what the capital improvement committee is supposed to be 4. We were established in 2015 by town meeting. There'd just be another set of eyes and recommendations on the various jurisdictions throughout the town. And just says here that what the RSAs tell us that we should be doing or shouldn't be doing, and what the basic authority of the committee is. What the authority of the committee is really very little, other than to review and make recommendations to the school board, the town, as well as the 2 precincts, but we really haven't done anything with the precincts that I know of in the past. The big thing is the definition, defining the definition of the of what a capital item is. Can you advance that?
Yeah.
And that is, it has to be $10,000, expenditure of $10,000, useful life of 5 years, and it shouldn't be a recurring expense every year. And also, we're supposed to report on potential bonding as well, and that's required in the RSA. Committee members, myself, Don Houston, Jim Fredema, Mike Foley, who is here with us, and Bill Palazzolo. We've had great support this year from both the town and the school. Karen has been crunching numbers since about the 4th day she was on the job. And also with Laura Tower and Jim Rizicki from the school. So jump right in here to the recommendations. So the CIP committee, after looking at everything from the town area, has recommended an appropriation of $1,320,000, which is up from last year's $1,256,000, but is exactly the same numbers that we presented last year in the long-term plan. So it's exactly the same. And also we looked at the town has a maintenance trust as well. We looked at that. And again, that's up a little, $130,000 from last year's appropriation of $118,500. School, again, we worked closely with them throughout the last 3 months or so. And we were recommending their number of $400,000 in appropriation into it. However, I think that might have changed last night.
It never changed. Our number was never 400. It's always 350.
Okay, well, the number that was presented to the CIP committee from Mrs. Taylor and Mr. Rizicki,
So what
and that was on the budget, on the website, that we were told to refer to that detail on the website, was 400,000.
So what within the CIP and what is our number can be 2 different numbers.
What, I'm sorry?
What's in the CIP and what is our number can be 2 different numbers because the board approves the number moving forward. So I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
400 was in the CIP, but that's not our number.
Okay, so that could be changed. The big thing here, the big difference with the CIP committee is, during this time of year, everybody's focused on this year. And what does this year compared to last year? CIP committee is supposed to look out long-term and make sure that we're funding capital things for the long term. And that's the big difference. So sometimes when we're trying to balance short-term needs at the expense of the long-term, our job is to really say, you really maybe shouldn't do that. Okay. Which in the next slide, which is an important slide, if you click of this, got it.
No, that's the
Next
next.
slide.
Why is it not? It's spinning. Okay.
I'm clicking.
No, where are we?
Okay. I'm referring now to this page, if you have it, and this page shows what the appropriations requests to cover things for the long term. And one of the things we'll talk about in a minute that we have requested from the school is to project their expenditures out further so that we don't come into a negative situation. And again, part of the committee here is to make sure that everything is being funded properly over the long term. In the year 2034, you can see at the school is going negative, and that's because there's a lot of projects in that year that are bunched in that year that probably won't happen in that year, but we want to know when they happen so that we're funding them properly. And also you can see from the town side over the next, in 27 and 28, and also through 30, that according to the expenditures that are on the docket, we're gonna have to increase the appropriations pretty significantly in those years. Everybody with me? Am I going too fast here?
Just hold up the paper where you are.
Yeah, I was on that.
Yep.
Okay, and now I'm just going, so what we have done, we prepared some bullet points, and I shortened these for this committee, but there are more on each things, and what our plan, what we have requested from both the select board as well as the school board is that after town meeting to sit down with each board and say, here's where we are long-term, and here's some suggestions that we have, because if the expenditures stay the same, then the appropriations have to be about where we're saying they have to be. And the only way to change that is to change the expenditures. And we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, maybe we don't need this, or maybe we don't need that, or have you considered this, or have you considered that? But we want to do that not when we're in the crunch of the budget season. And we want to start planning out. So hopefully next, say, May, June timeframe, we'll have the time to sit down and have that discussion proactively with each group. And again, remember, all we are as a group that recommends, all we're doing is throwing ideas out for the boards to consider. And you could read these independently when you want. The big thing that's on the school, on the town side this year is the question of the East Pennacook Bridge. And everybody that uses the transfer station goes over that bridge. And if the state does shut that down, we'll be going out to, what's the name of that sewer on the river?
I call it the meat shop because I haven't
Yeah,
read anything.
the meat shop,
Yeah.
right? And it'll be going, so we have to make sure that bridge is taken care of. And that's the big thing, as well as sludge, removal, which all has to be taken care of this year. The only thing that's different since I sent this out is that since then we actually got a estimate on what it was going to cost to fund the landfill cap repair. And that's been baked into the numbers, the revised numbers, but it's going to affect next year. Won't affect this year's schedule, but it will affect appropriations for next year and the year after. My time up?
If you're done, we can get into some Q&A.
I can go over each one
Yeah.
of these things, but I don't think we need to do that. I think you can read them at your leisure, but I'm happy to answer any questions or excuse myself.
I have just a quick question, and this may be because I don't know, we're just starting off and my brain is starting to turn on, but the slide 7, the long-term appropriations, you cite the definition of an expenditure, but I don't see expenditures on here unless something is mislabeled.
Right, so do you have copies of the expenditure sheets?
These, the big ones,
Yes,
Okay, got it.
your 2-pager.
yes.
Okay, that makes more sense then. I was looking in the slides, the wrong place.
You can see all the
Yeah.
expenditures are listed there, and these are the numbers that you have there.
Are the appropriations necessary to cover the plan? Okay, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. I was just like, it's not.
would you mind pointing out to people here, I'll give you my copy if you need it. Will you mind pointing out to people where the culvert and the sludge are on this paper?
Sure. So in the top hand corner, you should see, this is say Town of Hopkinton Capital Reserve, 120725,
The one with the staple in it. Yeah.
right? And if you go to the second page, flip it up. And down in road and bridges, you can see the yellow highlighted numbers. That's the estimate for the East Pennacook Bridge. And also, if you look at the line below that, it's not highlighted, but you can also see there's a Broad Cove Bridge that needs repair too. We have that scheduled for 2 years out, but again, we have to start preparing for funding that. And then 2 sections down from that on the same page are all the things going on with the sludge removal and sewer equipment projects that are going on.
Okay.
What's the purpose of the maintenance trust? Obviously, the capital improvement trust is pretty self-evident, but you talk later in the slides about making sure that the things that are maintenance actually are being included in the current year's operating budget, which for budgeting purposes seems like the right approach, but
So that last year, we had identified a bunch of stuff that were in both budgets that were in the capital that we felt didn't fit the definition of capital. We requested that they be moved to the operating budget. In pretty much all the cases that both boards have done that. There's a couple things that we can still talk about, but basically they've done that. The maintenance trust, which is another sheet.
The non-staple.
It's a different sheet. The one page sheet that looks like that.
Yep.
That, to be honest with you, it's questionable how this is being used. Each one of these trusts were set up with a specific purpose, which is the same thing with the school. They're each trust is set up with a specific purpose, but these don't necessarily fall under the same definition as things that are in the capital reserve. So we went as far as to ask the question this year, why is the capital expenditure committee even looking at this stuff? And the answer was, well, who else is looking at it? Okay, so we continued to look at it, but that's going to be one of the discussion points that we have with the selectmen next year. And I think this select board is planning on changing some definitions as to what goes in CIP, what goes in the maintenance trust, and what goes in the operating budget.
When these come in front of the public, are they 2 separate warrants, the maintenance trust fund and the capital reserve? Are they one?
I think they're 2 separate
warrant
warrants.
article?
There's separate warrants for a lot of this.
Each of these. And then I guess a follow-up question to that is, if 1 year, for some reason, the number for the warrant article gets reduced or increased or zeroed out or doesn't get supported. I guess if it doesn't get supported, there isn't a second opportunity to try again, right? It's not a budget. So what is the negative impact to that?
So one of the important things to know about these trusts is there's 2 pieces of a trust. There's the appropriation, which I call putting it in the bucket. Okay, and that is voted on at the annual meetings, school board and town meetings by the town. That's what goes in. What comes out of the bucket is the expenditures, all the details that you see here, and that is at the purview of both boards. Okay, so if nothing went in, then the boards would be challenged with looking what's in the bucket already. Okay, and then what projects do I have on there that I can afford to spend in there? And then once they do that, then we'd have to look forward again and say, do we need to double up on our appropriation next year? Or are we going to take some of these projects away?
Or
Can you-
push it further out, right? Spread it further out,
Yes,
That would
but
be a-
pushing it further out does not really help.
right?
Because unless you're gonna push it out 10 years, and some of these things, you just can't do that. You can't tell the state, we're not gonna repair the bridge for another 5 years.
Right.
Okay, well, just go to Concord, and then, you know. There's so some of the stuff you can push out maybe a year or whatever, maybe you can get another year out of a plow truck. But if the plow truck breaks down, you gotta replace it.
Mr. Feller, can you point out where on the CIP, Mr. Feller, where on the CIP, it shows how much we had left in our bucket at the end of 2025?
Yes, so each bucket could be different. Okay, but it says
Yeah.
here the year-end balances. So the way that we have to do this, the mathematical equation, okay? If you look in each section, there at the bottom, it says the year-end balance in each line item. And what we're trying to do is we have to make sure that that line item stays positive every year without going negative. And that's how we play with how much we need to put in this bucket this year versus another bucket another year. And that's how we have, it's a math problem, which Karen and I have become very good at this year. But
So when I get how the funds go into these, but when the select board wants to withdraw out of here, is that then a request of the trustees of the trust fund, or is it a request of the CIP committee?
neither.
Neither.
The selectmen and the school board have authority to spend the money on capital.
Once it's in
Period.
there.
Now, I think the school board has a public hearing when they do that. But it's really an information area. And I don't think the town does a public hearing. I think that they're allowed to just spend it.
Can you clarify that recommendation on here that says, question of whether there's any value to consolidate funds into a single fund that covers all the existing items? Are you basically saying like you take the ambulance and the fire and the library, like there's no reason to break those into?
I'm saying that there are some of those funds that we might be able to combine.
Strikes me as imminently easier to.
That's what I said, it's easier. The positive sides are, it's easier, it's less expensive. Okay, because there's less administrative time and there's less audit costs that have to go in at the end of the year. On the other side, and I heard the selectmen or the school board discuss this last night, the problem is there's specific things. So from a public standpoint, if you said this trust is for technology, let's say, and we combine technology and transportation, I don't know, I'm just making this up. Someone might say, no, I approved money for technology and you bought a bus. I don't want that. So there's positive pros and cons of each, but I think some of them could be looked at. There's also some that we've identified. There's funds that were set up there that have dollars in them, but no plan on expenditures for that fund. And there are ones also that I have suggested we need to look at. Cemetery Trust Fund is one, Welfare Trust Fund is another one that have money in them that we either use them or do away with the funds.
Couldn't you theoretically have a warrant to move those dollars?
You would have to have a warrant to move them from one fund to another. There would have to be a warrant, yes. Or to combine them, there has to be a warrant. Anything you do to change what that fund was set up for, or to move money from the fund other than the intended purpose requires a warrant.
Sorry, one more question for me. Can you also describe the recommendation of extending the plan to 10 years? Understand that resolves the negative there, but is there some resistance or reluctance to do that?
I don't think they've discussed it, to be honest with you.
Our CIP meets in January, and when we talked about it, in my question to you, projecting out over 20 years is pretty hard. Like 1 to 10 is hard enough, but 10 to 20 is super hard. In my brain, again, now I'm wearing my hat, not a school board hat. or speaking for the school board, is a rolling 10 years. So this year's 10 becomes next year's 9, and you're continually adding to that and then doing your amortizations from that process instead of trying to have a crystal ball that is much longer.
That makes sense to me. The recommendation though is what he's describing, to go to 20 years?
So it's one of two things, okay? From a CIP standpoint, I'm not comfortable presenting a number that says that we're gonna be $1.1 million in the hole in 2032. Okay, because the function of our committee is to make sure that doesn't happen. However, I also recognize I'm gonna make this number up because I don't have it right at my fingertips. There's probably $1.2 million of spending in that year that no one intends to spend in that year. But they intend to spend it 5 years, but they don't want to forget about it. So they put it in that year. So I'm saying either put it in the right year, okay, or increase the appropriations to say it's not on negative. And the increase the appropriation would be fairly significant to cover that in that short period of time.
To Rob's point though, at some point you're just like saying, make it up differently so that it works, because it's so far out that it's hard to predict.
Yep. Is it your committee's document, or is this the select board document that I'm looking at?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So I'll tell you that I think Neil put these together 15 years ago or whenever it was. Okay. And when I was on the board, this is what they were using. This past year, Karen and I spent a lot of time changing this form. So who owns this? I would probably say that Karen owns it. The town owns it more, even though I might have worked more on it. But this is the kind of directions that Karen is giving the department heads to say, this is what's in your budget, this is what we're planning. Is that fair, a fair statement?
I can probably, historically, the Central New Hampshire Regional Planning, this is part of a CIP, part of your master plan. So I think a template was probably created from whatever they had, because they have a very similar form. So it's definitely a commonly used planning document.
I asked that question because I'm curious about how certain categories are amortized and how others are very, very different. So for instance, the library is $5,000 and then it pops up to $65,000. And then police cruisers were 56, 32, 60, 61. So in the same ballpark. When we go up to the fire department, we're at 75, 140, 310, 550, 850, 370. It seems to me that if you're going to amortize the cost of those years, you want it to be level, not to be doing this so as to stabilize. So I'm just kind of curious how those appropriation numbers came to be.
I can explain that in detail. So I wasn't looking, we weren't looking at initially at the fire department. What I was looking at, what's the total appropriation to the town? Because when it comes to your tax rate and everything, it's a total. So how much you put in fire versus police, I don't care. What was my total? Maybe I do care, but okay. But that's what we did. So once we came up with the number, then we go back to each category to say, over the long term, what do I need to do in that category to satisfy the expenditure requests in that category?
So you use the gross appropriations during that time period and then split it up into the bucket.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So in theory, to my point earlier, 1 year out of the blue, the body at the annual meeting doesn't support this, and the fire department has $80,000 of appropriations where the previous year they had whatever, 5,000. Because those numbers shift on the long pattern, if that 1 year, 3 years out, it doesn't get appropriated, it really could whack that category. It could mess it up a lot.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, really, that's what happened is happening in the spike that you're gonna see next year or the year after, I forget which one, but, and that's because projects became aware of us with a short time frame to make up for that dollars. So I don't know if this is the case, but let's say we weren't aware that East Pennacook Bridge needed $1 million repair. And then somebody comes in and says, you need to do this within 2 years. That's $1 million we need to make up over 2 years. Okay, that is not the case. Okay, but I'm just using that as an example. And that's what causes a spike, which we're trying to minimize.
So can I just talk to your comment for
Sure.
a second? So all of the funds are, with the exception of the maintenance funds, which they're two separate warrant articles. So if the town voted to reduce what was going into the capital reserve funds, it would be up to the selectmen, possibly the CIP committee, to jigger things around so that the critical projects get funded and maybe something gets pushed out a year. So it's, while it doesn't necessarily, you can't say, well, I want to take, $80,000 out of the CIP maintenance or the capital trust appropriation, and I want it to hit the fire department. That, it wouldn't be that specific.
And I wasn't picking on the fire department.
No, I
I was just throwing out a general number, like if on the long scale, the fire department or public works or whoever had a large bump to what Rob was saying is it's not a equal amount distributed in every column. It's kind of a la carte by the way of needs.
Right. So the irony of thing is everybody's focused on the appropriation because that's what's affecting you. Okay. But the appropriations are just a derivative of the expenditures. So unless we're willing to cut or change what our planned expenditures are, then the appropriation is what it is.
Well, with one nuance, right? I'm wondering if the committee has a point of view on the appropriate fund balance in different categories. And is it different by different categories? For example, the ambulance number carries much larger
Yes.
than another category.
So two things. So after this was printed, we have one more change that's going to reduce exactly what you said. And in the future years is going to reduce the appropriations below, in most cases, other than I think there's 1 year that goes up because of the cap, the landfill cap, but it does that. It reduces it because we looked at each balance with two exceptions. Okay. The roads and bridges, we're still showing increased balance in the fund balance because the committee is not sure, is there another bridge in town that we don't know yet? And should we do more work before we take the money out? Should we do more work to make sure that we don't have another pending issue out there? That's number one. And the second area is in the sludge and waste removal. We have a lot of money in right now to redo the systems and to remove the sludge, but I'm not sure that there is money in there for the repeated removal of the sludge and what that costs us down the road. So we were reluctant, I'm sorry, to reduce the balances until we get more information. And remember, this is a long-term plan, so it doesn't affect what we're talking about on the budget this year, but it is something that we need to schedule for. So great point. We have addressed it except in those two areas.
Right.
You'll also see one other thing that's also occurring is if you look at the maintenance trust. Okay, and in the facilities, there's some buildup in the maintenance area as well. Okay, for again, things that we realize that are not established on here. For instance, replacing roofs in buildings is not on there. So that they're carrying large balances too, because we think that they're missing some items. Yes.
So back to my sort of a similar question, but now looking at the gross appropriations on your final page where it says total appropriations.
Yep.
It seems like there's in 2026, 1.3 million, then 1.6, 1.8,
Yep.
1.9. So a gradual progression up. And the kind of a big kicker up to 2.5, and then it goes back down to the 2.2, 2.1 range. So I guess similar question, when you're doing this, are you thinking about not only your objectives of meeting the money you need, but actually,
Sorry.
like, is that the plan to have these gradual jumps and then it levels out? Or is the plan that you could spread that out over a longer period of time?
So I guess long-term, that would be great, what you're saying. But we haven't done that, so you can't do it all in 1 year because of the way the expenditures lie. So if you look back and we look at the expenditures where they jump, you know, in 2030, let's say, where they jump $500,000, there's an expenditure that's driving that in 230. So I'd have to go down and look at what, yeah, and the expenditure I can tell you is the ladder truck in the fire department of $1.5 million that I got to cover by 2030.
I understand that, but if you took those same 5 or 6 years, added them together and divided by 6, you'd be gathering more money in years 1, 2, and 3, but less money in years 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you still have the same amount of money.
That's
I'm
true.
A little bit.
That's true. However, one of the things that we want to talk to the selectmen about is, do we need some of these things? So do I want to increase this year's appropriation to make that level when we have some ideas to reduce the expenditures where we won't need to do that at all? So once we have that conversation and we're all on the same page proactively, that's a great strategy. Yeah.
Thank you.
My question is pretty straightforward. Why are we seemingly replacing a police cruiser every year? Or am I misreading something about that?
No, that's what the plan is.
Why?
That, yeah, I'd have to refer to Vicky, but in the past, we talked about that. There's a rotating schedule and they get to a certain miles.
They're basically worn out. They have 4 or 5, I can't remember the exact number. They have 4 or 5, but every year, one of
them
those wears out.
Okay.
So rather than spend out gobs of money repairing them, knowing it's just a thread hole, you
Yeah.
just keep replacing them every year.
Okay. So the answer to my question is we have like 5 of them and one of them, it's not like we have 2 of them and we're just like, we want this year's model every year. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, it's mileage based.
I have a question about generators. In the sludge removal section, we've been saving up money for a wastewater treatment plant generator and the pump station generator. And we expended both of those this year, so we've been planning on it and spent it this year. Got it. If you look at the town hall, though, we're gonna set aside $20,000 for a generator this year to spend next year. So why did not we save up money for that?
Yeah, so
For the
the
other.
generator for the town hall was originally budgeted at $20,000 on a project that was going to be done in 2025. It was not done. Okay, so we kept the 20,000 there, but then when we were talking about it, we were talking about, is the capacity of that generator going to be sufficient to cover the town hall with the renovations that are planned for the town hall? And the answer was no. So what we did was we added $20,000 to the generator project to cover the anticipated needs of the power once all the renovations are done. It's not 2 different projects. It's 20 that was in there last year and 20 that we added for next year. When it's done, it'll be 1 project.
Wonderful. Can you please explain why we need a generator at the town hall?
That a whole nother question. So if we lose power, do we want to shut the business of taking payment for taxes and for registration of cars and everything else?
So one more generator question, then I promise that'll be the last. It looks like in the library, we want to put a generator in 2037 for
Yes.
$80,000. Why would we wait that long, or do they already have one that
So
needs
that's
replacement?
that is a question that's one of our things that we want to take out entirely, because we we've asked to go to the library trustees and get an explanation of why they need a generator. The explanation that was given in the expenditure request was they needed a generator to maintain the fire system. Okay, we were told by the fire department that that's not true. Okay, so we're trying to figure out, we didn't remove it because we didn't have that discussion with all parties together yet, but we're trying to get that information to say, do we really need this at all? Thank you.
In the interest of time, just because we have some stuff to get to, I want to thank Mr. Feller for coming. And if anybody has like one or two more questions, that's fine. Otherwise, I'm happy to bring him back at another date if the committee wants, but.
The longest 15 minutes that you like.
Well, it was obviously very worthwhile. Thank you so much. Feller.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McNabb.
She called you, did she call you?
All right.
Mr. Foley.
All right, well, Miss Bram, would you like to take the table?
Sure.
Or you could sit here.
Oh, no, I'm gonna stay in my seat. Is that
Okay.
okay?
That's fine
Okay.
with me. All right, so Miss Bram is going to present the town budget.
Okay. Is my slideshow in the drive?
Yeah, select board budget.
I don't think I put your slideshow in the drive.
The select board budget is probably the big packet, which is fine.
Packet.
Which is
Not,
fine.
not the PowerPoint.
No, I can go read that.
Just to be really, let's go. And
Oh, I was looking for the PowerPoint.
The budget's here, but a presentation's not here. If I can.
History.
What's board?
I got.
That's not.
Yeah, same. Now I'm getting duplicates.
That is the select board.
I can hear
But
it.
it's not her presentation. It's just the. Yeah. And I think it's like the actual.
I don't know how these are made it work.
Oh, no, it got all weird because it's a Google thing now instead of PowerPoint.
Oh,
Okay, never mind. You guys just follow along with the screen / all the pieces of paper you have, but the one in the Drive document, that's my PowerPoint presentation. The formatting got all wonky because now it's a Google Doc.
Yes.
And I was too adventurous with my font choices. So,
That's
I'm going with this.
All set?
sure.
Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna do great.
I'm gonna do great. I'm gonna do great. Yeah.
We're all friends here.
Exactly. Okay, so you know what? I'll save George Washington for another day. Just gonna read George Washington quote about the separation of powers, and you know what? I'm gonna save it for another day. Maybe I'll save it for the public hearing in February. Okay, so I'm here in my new capacity to present the town's budget instead of the Hopkinton Village Precinct. I'm honored to be here to do this. I know Matt's going to be honored to present the Hopkinton Village Precinct presentation in January. So what I would like to do is to start out by saying that we took a different approach than was how we presented this in the past. So, for example, last year and prior, we were focused on the bottom line operating budget. And as I learn more and more, I think it's important to incorporate other aspects that impact the tax rate. Like, for example, the sewer. Technically, it's a different fund. It's not part of the operating budget, but it doesn't pay for itself. And so it's important to consider it when we're talking about how much money the town spends. Also, exemptions. We rightly so offer certain exemptions for people off of their taxes because of different categories demographically that they might fall into. For example, there are elderly exemptions, veterans, blind folks, etc. So it's important to take into account that we still have to raise the money, even though we're waiving it for some people. And that's also not reflected just in the bottom line of the operating budget. And so if the numbers look different to you this year, it's because we're trying to do more of an all-in approach instead of just the 100 accounts, which are the rather big packet. So that's a good place to start. It's just to let you guys understand that it's me and Karen now, it's a different animal. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so I've always thought, and I think most people do, that the budget is a reflection of the town's values. And so from the select board's perspective, we're happy to put forward our values through this budget proposal. So I've got them up here. If anyone has a question about what these mean, I'm happy to dig into them. For example, when you think about social well-being, what I'm thinking about is parks, libraries, human services. And then following the laws and the rules. As everyone's aware, a lot of the money we spend is not because we're building fun, exciting things. It's because we're fixing things that we're mandated to fix. For example, the cesspools or the culverts. So it's a value of ours, but it's also not a choice that we have. And then for essential services, we mean waste management, we mean streets, we mean water, sewer, emergency services, police, fire. Okay, so I would like to reflect on some positive things. You do not have to read my small writing here. I'm going to read these out loud because they're worth saying into the record. The first thing is that we're extremely proud of our new town administrator, Karen. She's been such a blessing for us as the board and for everyone in town, even if they haven't met her yet. And then we're very happy to have Kim, our brand new assessing and administrative assistant, who's in this office over here. I also like to call out the professionalism of the staff, especially during trying times this year. We had a 9-week gap without a town administrator, and they performed their jobs without complaint remarkably well, creatively, and we appreciate them very much for that. And as you know, there's also been some other unforeseen circumstances. For instance, the rainstorm on June 7th that really changed the nature of how this year turned out for a lot of the town, the Department of Public Works specifically. Also, people are probably aware, but the Human Services Coordinator has been helping to transition the food pantry as the former nonprofit that was running it. I don't know what the right word is, closed. And then we're trying to help them reestablish. But in the meantime, fortunately, Lisette and volunteers have been able to carry the service uninterrupted through trying times. We're going to talk a lot about wastewater. We talked a lot about it last year. We're going to talk about it for the rest of our lives. And we had a pump replaced this year. which I believe is $85,000. So there's a lot going on with the wastewater system. Pine Street was rebuilt after that said wicked rainstorm, 6 inches in 6 hours or something like that, poured down onto town. And that changed a lot of what I think Dan and his crew was planning on, versus what they actually had to accomplish this year. Kimball Pond ran with a smaller staff very successfully. So I appreciate Paula's hard work retooling as she realized that her staff was not going to be at the levels it was last year. Dan happened to mention, but I thought it was worth highlighting, that as Briar Hill was being rebuilt, he and his crew salvaged as much material as possible for reuse, specifically gravel. Just, prudent Yankee thinking on his part, and I appreciate. Let's see. The library had a rude thing happen where their book distributor of many years canceled over 200 orders and then and said, we're not in business anymore. And they had to do some really quick pivots to try and, again, just maintain their service for the public. Karen, I want to specifically thank her because she's been doing systematic audits of different parts of the town. Our data collection, our vendor contracts, and we've found things that we can work on. We found numbers that were wrong that need to be corrected. And it's just really, again, sort of helped us as a select board have a more holistic understanding of the budget. Again, back to the pipes, the wastewater survey was done, but now the next thing is the scoping. So we're gonna go down into the pipes and see, correct me if I'm wrong, but see why we get more water at the wastewater treatment plant when it rains, because that's not supposed to be the case. And then we have a new ambulance and we've ordered a new rescue boat for potential flooding or water emergencies. The little sign over there is our designation because we were recognized as a town who promotes and relies more on renewable energy, specifically solar, than other towns in the region. And lastly, this is like the least exciting thing, except it's important. We renewed the solid waste removal contract with Waste Management, which is really important, but not glamorous. So that's some highlights from the year. So this is where the culvert is. It's right at the dump. That's the dump road, and that's where the road crosses the Kentucky River. And that's our culvert right there that is on the red list, which is a list maintained by the Department of Transportation. And I believe it's a scale of 9 to 1, 9 being pretty good and 1 being no one's allowed to drive on it, right? And what, 5 to 1? 5 to 1. Okay, got it. I've got it over here somewhere.
I thought it
But
was 9.
But anyway, so basically, here's my roads.
The one to the left.
It's the one on the left, isn't it? Is that transfer station actually in the wrong driveway?
Oh,
I
perhaps.
think it needs to go left one.
Oops, like some neighborhood and
I think
call it the
you're on the
transfer station.
neighboring
I'm sorry.
property, just to be honest.
I'm sorry. I'll drag that over. Yeah, you're so right. Look, and that's the landfill. You can see the landfill is the mode area right there.
Hey, we could take the dump to their houses.
Yeah, we still can't get over the culvert.
Save money.
Okay, I can't find my road list right now, but basically 3 is on the cusp of failure, 2 is failing, and 1 is you're closed.
5 is closed, I believe.
Okay, they're telling me I'm wrong about these numbers, but I just looked at them.
Bad is what you're gonna say.
I think you mean it's almost close.
number are we on in your estimation?
So the one we have to replace is, oh, look, she's got it. Thank you, Karen.
This is just a page of, like a 200-page document, and these are two, you want?
Yeah, do you mind?
Nope.
Okay, so 9 is excellent, 8 is very good, 7 is good, 6 is satisfactory, 5 is fair, 4 is poor, 3 is serious, 2 is failing, 1 is closed. So we are at a 3 on this culvert, which is serious. And then if it's and that's been downgraded from a 4 last year. So we were a 4 in 2024, then in March of 2025 we became 3. So there you have it. So that's what this culvert is. It's a serious issue according to the municipal red list bridge summary. Hey, Brina. And then also just for the next culvert in a year or two when we're all back here on Broad Cove, that's currently a 4. So that's currently poor. But we're concentrating on the one that's a 3, which is serious. So then I wanted to point out under the transfer station, Mr. Feller mentioned the landfill cap repair. So during that very large rainstorm, the earthen cap on top of the landfill partially failed, and we are going to be compelled to fix it by the Department of Environmental Services. We don't have a timeline on how fast they would like us to fix that. And we will hopefully be able to take enough time to do it right. We don't want to, so that's why they didn't try and cram it into this year's capital reserve fund appropriation. And we will have some remuneration from Webster as part of that project, similar to the other transfer station capital projects. I would like to make a nomenclature change the way that the school did about the contingency fund versus Article 10. Dan Blanchett has asked us to refer to the older lagoons, that the $4 million project, as the cesspools, because the lagoons in their world refer to the current wastewater treatment plant. So calling the older ones, the closed ones, the lagoons, is confusing for the department. Not confusing, but it's not as accurate as it could be. So moving forward, the $4 million project is the cesspools, and then the regular wastewater treatment is the lagoons that we're going to dredge the sludge out of. Yay. Okay, next slide, please, Karen. All right, these budget goals, although some are repeats from the prior year, they still hold water as important to the select board. Continuing our levels of service, working with stakeholders so that we're being accurate, fairly compensating our staff, supporting boards and committees, planning for future expenses, complying with all the regulations, and creating a clear picture of what 2026 is going to look like, and communicating it to the people of the town. Next slide, please. Again, this might feel pretty repetitive from last year, but it's worth repeating. The way we go about this process is each department head starts the process with their own budgets. They then had a meeting with the town administrator and the finance director to talk about the budget requests. Then each department head comes in front of the select board to review the budget requests. Then the select board, with the assistance of the town hall staff and the CIP committee, review the budgets. Then we do tonight, and I present the initial numbers or the revised numbers to you. You deliberate and make requests of me. I have a follow-up scheduled for the 14th of January, and then our drop dead date when all the public hearing, when all the public, or when all the budgets will be heard at the public hearing is February 5th. There's us. So during the budget work sessions, we tweaked a bunch of things. It's unclear to me if there's 10 or 12, so I just wrote more than 10 changes, which equated to about $19,000 reducing the operating budget. Some were actually asked, sometimes we asked the department heads to increase their request because we would like to give an accurate picture of how much things actually cost. So it's better for us to show you the real numbers, and then you have all the information to work with. So you'll see in that big packet, there's a column called the select board budget. And so that's where you would see if we made a change up or down, that's where that would be noted. Okay, next slide, please. So we reviewed the fund balance, which is calculated by the Department of Revenue and given to us on the tax rate breakdown, which is the four-page document that is extremely informative that Karen and I used as the basis for our calculations. And I believe you got 2024 and 2025.
2024,
And-
and you have it.
Printed
as well.
Excellent.
Yep.
Printed. So does anyone mind if we look at the 2025 one, the one that says $23.35 at the top, and you go to the very back page, you will see toward the middle, bold current amount retained, 2,875,534, which is that number. And that's after we took $50,000 out of it to reduce the tax rate, which really doesn't have that much of an effect on the tax rate, but we have retained, as you can see here, 7.87% of the general fund operating expenses, which is that second number down. And these are all NHDRA numbers, but it's important to note the amount, the percentage that we are retaining as we go into the new year. It's slightly higher than what we retained percentage wise and dollar amount wise from the year before, which again is on the last page of the tax rate breakdown 2024. And the reason why we're interested in holding on to a slightly higher amount at the end of the year is because of the construction phase of the cesspools project. The cesspools project, as you may remember, is being paid for through the Clean Water Revolving Fund. And the way that happens is we expend and we get reimbursed. So we want to hold on to a little bit more money because as construction moves forward, we will get paid back out of the bond, but we actually need to front the money first. So after a lengthy conversation about the fund balance and about how much we should retain with Kelly, the finance director was here at that meeting. That's what the select board settled on. Okay, next slide. So using the tax rate breakdown 2025, this sheet that says $23.35 at the top, this is the year that was. So again, if you're looking for how I sourced these numbers, I used New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration numbers. So in the year that was, you can see that the amount to be raised by taxes was $7.45 million just for the town, but the town including capital reserve funds and maintenance trusts and the operating budget and the sewer and all the exemptions. So, and if you're wondering, on the tax rate breakdown, midway down the page. It's called esoterically war service credits. Those are the exemptions that we offer to people. But it isn't just for veterans, even though it says war service credits. Go ahead.
Are the veterans.
Those are the veterans. Oh, okay. Is
Yep.
the other one that,
The other ones are applied to the overall town tax assessment.
okay.
So that's in our valuation.
Oh, so that reduced the assessed value, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So the 238,000 is the
War credits.
credits
veterans.
to veterans.
Yep.
The other exemptions are actually applied against the valuation of the town. So. Okay,
Is there any way you can see that total?
say it again.
Weren't you trying to find a way to show that total?
The total of
If they're discounts to the assessment?
your MS1, which is in your town report, will show that. I don't have it. Yeah.
And I mean, I could try and bring it back for the follow-up. So. The thing is, when we were here at this point last year, we were talking about the operating budget. We weren't talking about the total appropriation. So I'm just trying to make this clear that like, if this number seems higher than what you were told last year, it's because I'm trying to give a more accurate picture of how much it actually costs and what is included in the tax rate. So last year, because we needed to raise that much taxes, our tax rate for the town went from $4.87 per thousand to $5.34 per thousand, which is 9.65%. So that already happened. That was this year. And so, Karen, remember that little grid that has the tax rate comparison 24-25? Is that in here?
I did not put that in there. You want me to go?
I mean, do you mind?
Nope.
I think it's instructive. Sorry.
It is on the website. If you go under, what is it, town clerk, tax collector?
Uh-huh.
It's in,
Okay. Sorry.
Vicky, while you're looking for that,
Yeah.
this slide presentation will be available, posted somewhere for public to look
Yeah,
at.
I think we need to post it as a PDF though, because the Google really messed it up. So I think that we will post it as a PDF. Okay, so I am at the town clerk tax collector. Okay, so if you go and you just click on this all caps, it says tax rate set, 2025 tax rate set. So it's just the breakdown of how we got from a total of 2189 per thousand in 2024 to a total of 2335 in 2025. And again, all this information is available. But this is how Karen and I chose to try and break down the budget for this year. So will you go to the next slide? Oh, wait, I thought this is interesting because some bonds matured, but then we took out more bonds. So how much are we spending on debt service as a percent of the total operating budget? Last year was 9.8%. And then if you go to the next slide for me, Karen, this upcoming year, we're projecting it at 10.02%. So again, that's just debt service as a ratio of the entire operating budget. We're just going to keep an eye on that as time moves forward. So this year,
That's a great idea
thanks.
to track that number over time. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's okay. No, it was Karen last 2 meetings ago. She said, last meeting, she said, I would just like to point out that we're spending 10% of our operating budget just servicing debt next year. So again, this includes the sewer fund. So the operating budget for 2026, including the sewer, plus the maintenance of trust, less how much revenue we're expecting to get, is the amount to be raised by taxes, which is $7.891 million, which increases the taxes per $1,000 evaluation by 31 cents, which is 5.8% year over year. Is that the last slide? No, it's not. Sorry. We go the next slide for me, and we will come back to that number, but I just wanted to point out or review some important notes of what we're spending more on. I'm going to put more in parentheses because, I mean, I'm going to put more in air quotes because some of this we weren't spending at all last year. For example, the culvert, that's $1.1 million, all within the span of 2026. Then we've got the sewer pump screener, town hall renovations. Those three things are in the CIP spreadsheet. The Houston barn siding is in the maintenance spreadsheet. On the operating side, the merit pool increase and associated benefits comes to, I think we actually had maybe like $98,000 and change. I just put 100,000 in as a round number. Solid waste removal. This is waste management, the renewal of the contract. So they're charging us more to take our garbage. And they have an escalator in this contract, a 5-year contract. So that number is going to go up every year. It is per ton. So if we decide to really stop making so much waste, we could reduce the amount that we're spending on it. Insurance is going up. Also, other wastewater administration is going up, so much so that we thought it was important to point it out. And then the paving and shimming increase is the 5% year over year increase that has been continued to put in, I think, for over 5 years now. Okay, next slide, please. So back to 5.8%. That's where we're currently sitting based on all of the information that we gathered. I think that's it. One more. Nice.
Okay, so I'm just gonna kick us off.
Please go ahead.
So that does not include warrant article appropriation for the CIP.
It does.
Oh, it does.
It
Did I
does.
miss
We
that?
go back
Okay.
like 3 or 4 slides for me, Karen, to the one that has tax rate projection all in caps at the top. That one. So
Okay,
operating
Right.
budget and then 1.45 is,
it is in there.
Yeah.
In your like amount to be raised by taxes.
yes. And that's
Okay.
another thing. Again, it's neither better nor worse. It's just when I'm presenting this to you, I wanted to show you
Yes.
all of it.
I love that. That's why I asked the question.
Okay. Yes, Lauren.
Does the reevaluation of everybody's property change the ratio in any manner of how that tax rate increase went from 534 to 565?
So the valuation really didn't budge that much year over year, right?
The big reval was 2024, so the impact from that was 23 to 24. The 24 to 25 impact was just, your pickups, what they call them, building,
Okay, so that's a comparable year, not the big shift.
right, which is why we didn't put 23 in here because there was just no way to compare
Okay, that's
that.
what I was,
Yep.
that's what I was wondering, because it isn't a
So,
skyrocketing difference there.
Yeah.
And I was wondering that.
and Vicky did note in here that when we calculated this projected 2026 tax rate, we used the 2025 valuation. I expect it to go up a little bit, but this would make this a conservative estimate.
Yeah, it's really hard to judge how much evaluation
Valuation
could
is
go
really
up
hard.
or, right? it feels like there's a lot of building, but our valuation actually only went up $1 million and change from 24 to 25.
Which isn't too many big houses.
A question on the fund balance retention. Is the number that's shown here, the 2,875,534. Does the town actually keep a kitty also relative to the school? Does the town have that umbrella that covers? If we didn't bring in money, we were supposed to, for not timely for the town and for the school, does it cover that whole umbrella?
I think this is both, right? This is everything we're carrying forward.
Right, because it's a piece of the 36 million at the top of the sheet on the back there, the general operating expenses. That includes, I assume, the school and the town and the precincts probably.
Yes, that's everything. That lines up with your property tax commitment, more or less, on first page, which includes state ed, county, schools, everybody.
Right.
Yep.
Second question, on the solid waste renewal contract, how close was it to going with the other side of the contract, hiring somebody to come in as a separate, a different entity? How close was that decision?
It would have been far more costly.
Okay.
Yeah.
We did hear a hard quote from Casella, and
Yep.
it was,
Because it has to be transported quite a distance,
Mhm.
Yep.
It was like a 50% difference probably?
at least. Yeah.
Wow.
So with that new signing of that contract, then we will be looking to liquidate our privately owned trailers, or town owned, I should say, not privately.
I would assume so.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for the board because we're gonna have to talk about this again, but one of the important points of the contract renewal was that Waste Management wants to use their own trailers.
But to answer your question, I think we keep our own trailers. Correct?
We own our own trailers and they don't want to use them. So, there's a good chance that we could consider selling them on the secondary market and trying to recoup some of the costs because they're very expensive.
So filling our trailer, if they're not gonna haul it, doesn't make sense. We'd be storing
The
them.
wet systems aren't compatible, remember?
That's right.
I
And
didn't hear what Rich said.
The wet system.
The hydraulic systems
Yep.
are not compatible.
Right.
And they're also larger, which Waste Management contracts with somebody to haul that, and that person has bigger trailers, doesn't need to make as many hauls. That's part of, fewer trips is less money. And can I just got to plug so you guys understand my thinking. The contract from the proposal came from Waste Management, and I sent the guy back and said, go sharpen your pencil, and he did. So my practice is to push back, and we got another 4 cents off per ton. So.
Good.
And then with that, wasn't there also a trailer scheduled for purchase in CIP? So there'll be some potential reduction there.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It
Oops,
is-
sorry.
Or was in the CIP. Now, we talked about this for sure.
We did. Transfer station, CIP. Yeah, Lauren, that's a really good point. We've got in 2027 plans for replacing trailer number 1, which seems like that can be part of our conversation in January about. Yeah, please go ahead.
In the redone one that we did since this, we've taken that out. It's $119,000 to purchase trailer 3. And we also put in an additional 100,000 from the sale of trailers 1 and 2, offset the expense of the landfill cap.
A question on landfill. As I understand it, some of the material has slid off the cap. That's why you have it open, and now we got worried about more water and more freezing and exacerbating that whole situation. And then the big number, and I've heard the number of 800,000, is for redoing the entire drainage around it. Are we able to fill that hole in the top of it so it doesn't get worse in essence?
That's a great question. I'm not sure I have any details on that.
So the 800,000 is a ballpark estimate from our engineer on what it would take to repair the cracks and redo the drainage. It's to re-establish, put it back as it was before the rains happened. So-
I haven't seen it, but I'm visualizing that there's just fill that needs to be put in that hole. Is that able to be done before, like right off next spring to do that? Rather than wait and let it just get worse and worse.
When I read the proposal, what I read was that they actually have to remove some of the material to get the drainage in there and then put it all back. So I don't know if they would fill the cracks before or after. I'm not even really 100% sure where the cracks are in relation to the drainage. So again,
In my simple mind, fill the cracks first. And keep that under control and then worry about the big issue, which is where all the money is basically.
yeah, I don't,
I just thought
that's
that-
the question for the engineers. And then of course, DES has to approve everything. Yep.
Thanks.
I have a question on the culvert project. You had mentioned when you were in the discussion of the transfer station, that Webster, the word you used was remunerate or remuneration. Is it appropriate or is it possible that because the Webster folks are using that culvert also, they're driving over that culvert, it's not appropriate to even ask them to? They're coming the other way. Not all of them. They come right down to that four corners.
I don't know.
Not to mention that Waste Management is gonna be hauling their trailers over it. They're bigger trailers.
I think that might be a slippery slope because that's within our town borders. I mean,
Understood. That's
Concord.
why I use the word appropriate. It'd be appropriate to approach them. It makes sense that they're gonna help with the transfer station since they're physically using that, but they're also driving over that culvert.
Well,
Not all of them, but some of them are
I
using.
mean, think about it. Concord, if that logic follows through, Concord could call us up and say, hey, you use our road, help us pay for our road.
That's fair.
It might become a toll road.
Yeah.
If I may ask a question, something that wasn't part of this conversation, but was heavily discussed at the select board meetings was the position of the economic development coordinator. Could you please, just for the record, give a little update on that? Thanks.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you're right, it's been well discussed. And the goal is that we have a conversation with the Economic Development Committee to decide how this position could best serve the town beyond a very narrow economic development focus. I think potentially in this meeting as well, we have thrown around the term community development. And it's been argued that some of the successes that the position had before it was vacant fall more under the realm of community development than pure economic development. On a side note, the town in 2018 created 2 TIF districts, places where we identified potential development. And we reserve part of the yearly taxes we collect in a specific fund designed to foster that development. That being said, the TIF district has been funding 50% of that position. The position fell vacant in February, I think, of last year. And because it was unclear exactly what we were hoping for moving forward, and then having a new town administrator, we basically put a pin in it. And We've reduced the budget for it for next year by a quarter because we think it might take us 3 months to even square what we want out of it, post it, and maybe find someone appropriate for it. The job description itself is still in flux. We will continue to talk about this. We've got, I think, January as a goal to hammer out what we would like it to be. So hopefully it'll be a very clear agenda item so that if people have feedback on it, I'm happy to take feedback on it now. I would love feedback on it now, but I don't want to put y'all on the spot. You can email us. We do get written opinions and, stories from townsfolk that hopefully help us make decisions. And so we are going to continue to talk about this. So if you want to write to us, come to the meeting or talk to one of us offline that we can bring your thoughts to the discussion, be very happy to do it. I will say though that I don't feel very confident right now because I wish I could give you more details about what that would be. We've identified certain things we know we want, but that doesn't mean we have a clear job description.
Can I ask well, thank you for that explanation. Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Do we know how much funds are in that TIF fund that are set aside? And if there's adequate funds in there to fund someone specifically, whether it's however many hours are required to try to promote economic development, could that 100% be funded through the TIF district, which is in theory garnishing money to create economic development?
Karen, do you know how much is in the TIF fund?
I know that Kelly and I estimated we'll be putting $500,000 in there this year. There's, I think we're going to be close to 1.5 million in that fund.
That seems like a awesome potential to utilize that funds, because what else purpose, what other actual expenditures can
Infrastructure
within
the
that
district.
Okay, so there,
So it's
we
very
paid for some
specific.
studies,
Mhm.
right,
That's
out
study.
of the TIF about extending existing infrastructure to exit 6.
Yep. There's also, they're exploring some wells out
Okay.
there, water sources.
but if year over year, how much is the year over year then contribution? Do we know roughly what that is?
So tell me if this is too much information. The tax incremental financing district, you take your snapshot in 2018, the valuation of the TIF, the properties within this district is $100,000. The next year, you take that snapshot again, it's increased by $20,000. Now it's $120,000. The tax revenue on that $20,000 gets put in that fund.
Okay, so it's on that.
When you do a reval and your properties jump or double, that's when we started putting the really big money in there.
Okay, so whatever we put in this year will definitely be the same amount or more unless someone tears down property, correct?
Roughly, yes.
So we should be able to know what was contributed into the two TIF districts. And if there's 1.5 million-ish plus an annual contribution of enough money to pay someone part-time to economically develop whatever the task is, whether it's look for new studies, get grants specifically for the TIF. To me, it almost seems like this could be a two-part job. You know, if you put your economic development hat on, just like a contractor, and then you move to another job. If the town wants to have a coordinator for community and wants to fund that, then it, to me, seems like it could be done separately. And it does seem, if we're banking millions of dollars, that we do need to have someone trying to work towards making economic development happen. And I know Mr. Ian Hart expressed that it's nice, they need some, it would be helpful to have a full-time employed person that they could go to with their suggestions.
My understanding is that the efforts for the TIF district can be funded by the TIF fund. If they're doing community development work in Tukey Center, that would not qualify. So
And-
that's, I think
And that's where I'm saying, as a contractor running 3 job sites, this whomever potentially took that position, maybe they could change hats. And I don't know if that position, when it was filled, being part-time, came with full benefits and that, because that would get dicey trying to figure that out. But it seems like we have adequate money coming from the TIF districts to fund someone 100%
Yeah.
from those districts. And it's not going into the kitty to be offsetting this. So that's my,
I would need to look and
Yeah, we're gonna have to come
really
back.
dive into.
yeah,
the-
absolutely. It's
Parameters
You
around
asked
that. Yeah.
for some input. That's my thought.
I like it.
I have like a very nitpicky question. First of all, as always, I think I remember this from last year, but, or maybe. Anyway, the notes under every single line item, there were like 4 times where I had a question and then I read the note and my question was resolved. So love that. I am wondering, like, again, this is like just
No, please go ahead.
not
We
super
want you to
impactful
read all
overall,
of them.
but
Yeah.
why is the telephone for the transfer station? No, that's not the right one. Wait, where'd it go? Was another telephone line item? Oh, no, it was the transfer station. Going up $912 this year, but most of the other telephone line items for the other departments are not going up.
We should be able to answer that better. It was budgeted based on where it's trending this year. We're doing a total, audit of our phones.
Okay,
And we're almost done with that. So
Okay.
I think we're going to be getting rid of some lines and
that's great.
I'm
'cause
not
they're
sure if it all
all
comes-
high.
yes.
Like, I assume, like, when my bill starts to go up, I call Comcast and I say, I'm gonna switch.
Yep. Unfortunately, we can't quite do that.
Right, I get that, yeah.
We would like to.
Right.
But we are getting rid of some lines. We had some duplicate service between Comcast and TDS.
Okay,
The ballpark estimates I've heard is probably 500, maybe as much as $1,000 a month. So
awesome.
that's significant.
Can I shift gears and ask a total different question? When the CIP plan was presented earlier, there was discussion about renovations to the town hall. I know there's some down here renovations and discussion on the long range of doing something with the upstairs. And I believe that's what plays into the generator. Is there any consideration instead, I don't know what those numbers are, but I believe they were in the millions plus. If the town is going to hang on to the former tax collector Bates building and have ownership of it, is there any discussion about retaking that over and utilizing that space instead of spending millions of dollars renovating the upstairs with an elevator so public access can happen?
I don't think we've had any discussion about the Bates building, but I feel comfortable saying that the renovations conversations are ongoing. There are plans that were drawn up before Karen got here regarding the town clerk tax collector space and regarding the back offices here. I believe they're both in this year's CIP. It's got $73,000 for these 3 offices and then 75 for the town clerk tax collector area. I I don't feel super confident that we're really truly ready to actually move forward with those projects in this calendar year.
In the CIP, is there major renovations to the town hall other than what is important down here? And I don't have opposition to working down here, but I'm just wondering, is it more cost effective for the town long range to not try to make a huge renovation upstairs, which may require elevator and elevator inspections and all the above egress?
It looks like 2030 has $300,000 earmarked for second floor. And then 2033 looks like actually outside work, parking and access. Is there anything you want to add?
No, that's accurate.
Okay.
So would it be cost effective? I guess I don't know what the use is for that extra space, if it was for more personnel or whatnot, but would
Right.
there ever be an exploration of, since we own that other building, I believe we're still archiving town records in the basement. That's part of why the sale was a big hang up with computer technology, Zoom, this and that. That additional space potential, I mean, this space that we're using right now, maybe meetings could be held there in that open space if that's what was required. I could see some offices right here. Just throwing this out here as a potential cost savings. If we want to maintain that building and we're going to save the building.
I'd just like to add, before you get onto the board, Victoria, there was this discussion of should we keep the Bates building or not? And one of the reasons for abandoning it and bringing the town clerk office here was so that all the town employees could talk and coordinate better. And it was a little bit awkward down there. So I think trying to go back to the Bates building would lead to inefficiencies that have been solved by moving this here.
I'll bring it up.
I have a quick question. The sewer, I'm flipping to sewer.
Sorry.
No, I'm flipping to sewer. Just
Okay.
giving you a heads up.
Oh,
Sewer engineering,
great.
it says to procure an engineering firm to map out upgrades and future expansion of the sewer system, 50,000, which like does not strike me as odd, other than the fact that it seems like we've spent over 50,000. I mean, not the year to date, but in 2023 and 2024.
Krista, what page you on?
She's on
2 of
page
3.
2 of 3 in the sewer packet, which is much smaller than the town packet.
What page?
2 of 3 on the small packet.
2 of 3 on the small packet,
Third
and then
line
the
down.
third line item, sewer
you.
Thank you.
engineering. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, is this related to one of our ongoing projects, or like, why are we contracting that much in engineering every year for the past few years?
So if I'm not mistaken, did we use, is this where we would have paid for the pipes survey?
That was, I believe, grant funded. So the
Okay.
scoping, you're talking about the scoping?
No, I mean, before the scoping, they had to make they had to write down where all the pipes were. They did the survey.
I don't know.
Okay,
And
that's
the
okay.
answer to that. I do know that there is regular contact between the sewer operator and our engineering firm when things happen that aren't anticipated, such as the pumps failing, things like that, and that is costly. I think when he talks about mapping out upgrades, I think he's definitely talking about mitigating some of the things that he sees as risks to the town, things that haven't been maintained
Mhm.
and perhaps could be done more efficiently, you know.
That makes sense. I'm just wondering why it was 80 then in 2023 and 53 in 2024, and then needs to be 50 again. You know what I mean?
I would say it's this ongoing, using the engineers as a resource to help address the issues that pop up, and we can get more clarity on that.
Yeah,
Mr. Chadwick.
writing it down.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I need one of those big packets.
Does anyone else have questions? Okay.
I have a couple of questions, Madam Chair. I'm on page 43. I just want to jump back to Lauren's question on the economic development director, which we budgeted 51,000 and change. It does note that half the costs are reimbursed by the TIF district. 43 on the main packet.
Thank you.
But it looks like they worked only $8,000 worth of time this year. So it is, I mean, it seems to me the Economic Development Committee, I know it's been something we've talked about the last few years. You know, what exactly is going on with that? Are we trying to get some economic development? What exactly are we doing?
So the position hasn't been occupied since February. So I think there were some wins when it was filled. And there's actually a really good summary in the town report written by the former economic development coordinator about how their time was spent when in 2024. So I don't have a straight answer for you. I think
Is that
it's,
something we're advertising?
so we're basically rewriting the job description. We're not starting from scratch, but we're trying to hone in on what we want the position to be. And also, I think we know this, but there's very minimal opportunities for economic development in town. And so the person that had that job prior was very creative in terms of seeking out grant funding, doing studies, finding a way to eke out as much information as possible about the opportunities that we do have. That being said, I think economic development looks different in different places, and it's hard for me to wrap my head around what it means for Hopkinton.
I have a follow-up to that if you're done.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I have actually my main question, but let's stay on the economic development.
Thank
for a
you.
minute.
Thank you. So I don't have any friends who are community development directors, so I did searches like everybody does on the internet and asked it 100 different ways to hopefully get out the errors of AI. And I keep hearing city planner, urban planner, high density housing coordinator. I mean, I don't know what kind of a position you guys are thinking about here, but I think I'd go home and cry in my beer if we put an urban planner on our town staff. How would this person judge success? I mean, when you hire on an employee, okay, do we want to put in 10 10 apartment buildings, and then next 10 years from now, we want 10 more? Is that how this person would justify their salary? That's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I think that's a great question about how to judge their success.
I think one would be the limited industrial and warehouse properties that we do have in town when they turn over, or the tenants. Or, what's the highest and best use for those properties? There's certainly some properties in town that are underutilized, like the old Prathern building, the old Aerotronics building, but, that's just an aside. What I really want to get down to, because I've suddenly become a flashpoint for several residents in town who have been asking me about it. So we're paying a welfare coordinator. My understanding is we serve 56 people currently. It's a 30-hour a week position. And they're overseeing basically $50,000 worth of payments off the town budget. There are other payments, obviously, that come out of the Regional Community Action Program funded through Concord. But that obviously doesn't seem, paying somebody $50,000 plus a year to administer $50,000 worth of benefits doesn't seem like a real smart use of the taxpayers' money. And then my understanding is this person actually doesn't have a written job description. Is that true for all our town department heads, or is it just this particular one?
I'm 98% certain that there is a job description for that position.
Okay, because
Bob.
a taxpayer came into town specifically to inquire about that because of some situations, obviously, that were brought to a head by the federal government shutdown a couple of months ago, but I think she was told directly that there was no written job description for that particular. And so I got a complaint from half a dozen people about that. I'm just trying to souse up.
I will certainly look into that, but I would be very surprised that because she was hired recently and we've been pretty thorough in reviewing job descriptions
Okay.
prior to new
So-
hires. So
Do
I,
all our department heads have written job descriptions? And that one should have one too.
yep. I can also tell you part of the welfare director's job is to take in information and also find other resources. It's not just the town's resources, but if there's another fit from another agency, so there's a lot of redirection and connecting individuals with resources.
Yeah, understood. I've been
Okay.
on the other side of the table when I did property management, especially working with CAP and the city of Concord. So I am familiar with those programs.
Okay.
And just a quick point of clarification, I believe it's,
Yeah.
I believe it's 56 families, not 56 individuals.
Oh, yeah,
Just-
56 families.
Yeah, just to make sure we know, it's not like just 56 people, but families are different sizes, so the impact is much larger than just
Sure.
56.
Also, and I feel bad, I don't have a dollar figure for you, but we receive a lot of monetary donations that Lisette also distributes
Well,
according to need.
that's actually how this became a flashpoint, because there's a local, and there's a bunch of Hopkinton residents, including, full disclosure, my fiance, that are involved in it, that is providing 200 meals a week to area food pantries, and the Hopkinton Food Pantry has declined to participate. So there are taxpayers in town that this has become a huge issue for them. And there's lots of questions obviously being asked about it.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to keep coming up. So the food pantry isn't actually run by the town.
Understood. I understand right now there's a weird overlay because
Yeah.
but the director is supposed to be putting in a couple hours a week, is my understanding, to keep the food pantry open, has volunteers that are being turned away. Again, some of this is second and third hand.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you directly from when she gave us her budget presentation that what she explained
Yep.
is they are doing their best right now, but they cannot get their hands on the previous bank accounts and all the documentation associated with the food pantry, which means they need to start from scratch.
Right.
So they're starting from scratch with forming a whole new 501, which obviously limits their ability to then do anything else. And so she is above and beyond, right? She's budgeted for 30 hours. That's what her job is. Those 30 hours are full. She has plenty to do. And then she's also taking on this in a new role while we didn't have a town administrator.
Sure.
So I just want to name that there have been limitations to what the food pantry has been able to receive or give out that are not necessarily on the backs of the town employees, because it's a separate entity which uses free of cost space in the Schlesser Center. And I deeply appreciate Lisette taking on this additional responsibility above and beyond what her job description is, while we're trying to get the food pantry back up and running again as a separate entity, not as part of the town. So I know that she has been out sick, unfortunately, earlier this season. It's human. We get sick. She's a one-woman band.
Yep.
And And it sucks, right? Because the government shutdown sucked and it all is horrible. And I just have a lot of empathy for everyone who's trying to get resources, as well as the one person who's representing both that department and the food pantry. I will stop now. Thank you all. Alyssa McCann, by the way.
Can I just add to that?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just.
Or do you
gonna
want to
bring
move past
structure to
this?
That's okay. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with you. I don't think we've met. So are you representing the food pantry or is this
Employee.
an employee? Okay. Of the
Karen?
town?
Karen?
Okay. What's your name?
Karen Robbins.
Oh, okay. Karen, we've talked on the phone.
I know.
I'm Krista. Okay, great. Well, we've not met in person, so this is such a delight for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, I've been here for a number of years.
Can
but
you
I
sit?
just wanted to add that, you were talking about food pantry, food, and helping 50 some odd families. That doesn't include the fact that Hopkinton's made up of mostly seniors, elderly. Lizette takes care of these seniors. It may not be in lieu of, money or food, but she's at the Park Ave Apartments quite often. She's doing anything and everything she can to assist these seniors. It may be coordinating rides to doctor's appointments with Dial-A-Ride or helping with taxes. So it's not just feeding people and coordinating that part. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
I was just going to add that I had a resident approach me, came into my office, and we had a nice sit-down meeting about the perceived refusal of frozen meals from Warner. I think there was a capacity issue that was involved, because I did address it with Lisette, and I connected this woman with Lisette. I think this woman would make a fabulous volunteer, and Lisette can use all the help she needs. So I'm hoping that they were able to resolve that, but I do believe the capacity was part of the problem.
Okay. Alyssa, maybe you have the right answer to this. Is there a path for the food pantry to come under a new organization that's not run by the town? Not specifically budget, but
Yes.
it's now been raised at this meeting.
Yeah,
So
it is paperwork that just needs to get done.
Okay.
And this is a really hard time to carve out that space.
Right.
So Lisette and I have already been in contact.
Okay.
Our goal is to connect and get that paperwork completed to get them set up as a nonprofit in the state of New Hampshire, followed by opening the necessary bank accounts, followed by applying for the necessary
Oh, yeah.
501.
I
And this
get
is,
how that's
yeah.
hard.
And this is all not in my capacity as a select person, but rather
Right.
as a volunteer who apparently has a hobby of filling out this paperwork.
Okay, perfect. So there will be like volunteer individuals taking over the new 501c3. So it's not Lizette.
Lisette has a
Line of
team of
sight.
folks who are ready to take it on. They just
Okay.
don't necessarily have the time or the experience in doing the paperwork part
Right.
of it. But
Cool.
she has an entire group of individuals who are ready and raring. They just don't have the necessary coverage that you would have as a nonprofit to do the things they need to do to move the money they need to move.
Okay. Thank
So-
you for answering that.
Maybe a little more supervision this time so we don't end up in the same spot we are at.
Yeah, we don't need to,
Time out.
yeah.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt, but let's go back 2-3 years and think about the role of this committee. And when we venture into becoming a select board meeting instead of a budget committee meeting, a question about the efficacy of a position and the amount is one thing, but to discuss a specific role and that person's proficiency in that role is highly, to me, we would be in non-public right now. This is not a public discussion as far as I can understand. So I am very, very concerned about the avenue that this last 10 minutes has gone. And I've been biting my tongue off over here saying, what are we talking about? That is inappropriate. I'm sorry. You cannot do that.
Thanks, Rob. Noted. I do agree, which is why, or I agree in part, which is why I was trying to confirm the path for the food pantry. They seem to have one. I suggest we move on from this topic.
We should move on, and we should be more careful when we're talking about people in their positions and how they execute them in public.
All right. Any other questions for Vicky on any other topics?
I have an interesting note that I wanted to add, which is that due to as I mentioned, some plans being changed by the weather on the Department of Public Works, that we are encumbering $160,000 of shimming and paving that they didn't spend, and bringing it forward into next year. So that's not in this operating number for 2026, but I thought it was worth noting.
I saw we're also covered on sand,
Mm.
which is neat. I saw that.
Vicky, I was just wondering if you can, just in some final report somewhere, it's not important right now, but is the number of employees on the town side increasing, decreasing, staying the same?
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
I'll bring that back in the follow-up meeting.
You're the best.
Your all-in percentage increase was 5.8 and on the operating was 4.27.
Yep, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Nato. That's right.
All right. Hearing no more questions or comments for Vicky, I would like to thank her for coming to present the budget for the town.
Good job, Vicky.
Thanks.
Gail was on earlier and had raised her hand, but I think she's gone.
Gail Kimball?
Okay. Do we,
She
so
raised her hand when Vicky was speaking. And
Okay.
I'm not going to interrupt the presentation, so.
I appreciate that. Well, I would like to open it to public comment on the topic of the town. Anyone would like to come say anything? Okay, Mr. Feller?
Real quick question on the, Dave Feller, Clement Hill Road. On the TIF district, okay, is there any appreciation or was there any new construction that is driving the dollars that are going in there other than just property values? We got lucky because it hit us when property values doubled. Was there any new construction or new renovation that's driving the money that's going in there?
I'd have to look at specific, building permits within that area, but it's the incremental tax each year. So whether it's building, it might drop if there's a fire and something's destroyed.
Yeah, but
it's,
if, as I understand it, if the property valuation was $1 million and you implemented the TIF and nothing was done in that district, although the valuation of that property went to 2 million, then that incremental million goes into the TIF.
Mm.
And what my question is, okay, fine, we all experienced a huge jump in our valuations that affected our tax rate, but the rest of the town was kind of penalized by that chunk going up in value. And I'm wondering, was there really any economic development in that area at all?
I think Karen might have some to add. You want to add something?
It's just gonna, yeah.
You want to come to the mic?
Yeah.
It's okay.
I apologize. I can tell you, and forgive me, because economic development takes over, more or less with the select board handles the TIF, so I may have a wrong section of town. But the exit 6 area, the McLean area, McLean has done, we've issued him 2 permits. One, they're putting an addition onto one of their cold storage buildings right now. It's cold storage, a small addition. The other thing is they're creating a 200 square foot humidor in a mezzanine because they're getting a major shipment at the end of the month of cigarettes, and they have to separate them out and keep them at a certain temperature. The things you learn in this position is, like I'll ever use it anywhere else.
Anyone doesn't know, she's
yeah.
a planning director.
So that's the only area at exit 6 that we've dealt with. Burnham Infield, I don't think is in the TIF.
No, it's the top of 127.
Okay.
It's where Dunkin' Donuts is.
Oh, there's nothing there. There's been no contact or reach out to us. But then Burnham Infield, even though it's currently not in the TIF, the old Excalibur building, which sold a number of years ago, they moved up to their old Herrick Millwork building on that same street. The Excalibur building is currently being divided into, I'd say, different spaces, and they've got new companies moving into that building in partitions. But otherwise, no, there has not been. So the
Thank you. Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Mr. Feller. All right, any other public? Okay.
It's more of a clarifying thing about the town hall, Alyssa McCann, 519 Crowell Road. The 300K noted in 2030 for the town hall renovation CIP. I just want to clarify that I don't actually believe it's for a whole second floor renovation because as Lauren said, that would be $1 million+. So I'm just naming that. Well, I think it is a hope and a dream of some of us to see the upstairs space restored and publicly accessible. It is not currently represented on the CIP and there are no current plans for it. Because I think the thought exercise is a good one, but I just want anyone to listen to the recording and think that buried in here somewhere is a plan to renovate and make the second floor accessible. That is not currently the case. I would like it to be, but it's not currently the case.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that clarification. Thank you.
All right, seeing no more folks in line to comment and no one online, we'll close public comment on the town. And we're going to move on to the Hopkinton School financial update. So just to set expectations here, I did touch base with Rob, Mr. Nato beforehand, and just a friendly reminder to everyone that this is not the school's official presentation. They're doing a nice thing to align with us and give us insight into their latest thinking ahead of their official presentation. Rob, my expectations is that Rob tells us where they're approximately thinking with the operating budget and approximately thinking as much as he's comfortable sharing with warrant articles and allow us to kind of react to that.
Sure.
All right.
So before we get to that piece, you have the November financial in your packet as well. So if you have any questions about that, and that's in the stock tax alert going on.
In the computer.
Yeah, in
Yeah.
the drive. Our unassigned fund balance so far is at 330,000 plus. We've got a little bit of overage in special ed, but that's probably going to change as we have some hiring and placements going to occur. Food service revenues are running on par, but we still expect to be in the hole, the $100,000 that we budgeted for. And if you get into the weeds and the particulars on expenditures, you'll notice that a few of the categories, speech, OT, other people's services are a little bit upside down right now. That'll change to and it's upside down because we've had to contract instead of people that we would typically have hired. So that will be done through budget transfer. But monthly financials are there and the little summary sheet is very helpful to get you to where you need to be. So our budget process is essentially complete and we are in the process of building the full presentation. We are looking at a 4.7% increase. The total proposed increase is $1,315,000, $695. And we spent, as we have in past years, the same process, but a lot more looking with individual department heads and business administrator with justifications by so sort of a unique situation. We did ask for a reduction in the budget about 4 weeks ago, and the superintendent and the business administrator came back with that reduction. We had asked for $100,000 reduction, and they came back at $99,894. Some of it from operations, and some of it from salaries and benefits, and some of it from savings. Rich, you'll a renegotiated electricity contract saving us about $27,000. In terms of the warrants, we are running the same playbook we ran last year. So the special education trust at $100,000, the maintenance trust at $350,000, tech trust at $30,000, and the school district vehicle trust at $10,000. And I think if you recall from last year, we paid for part of the tech trust out of our annual fund balance, and I believe all of the $10,000 for the vehicle trust out of the fund balance. That yet to be determined. but is likely. So we don't foresee any change in tax rate on warrants at all. The exact same amount of money, so there'd be no change to the tax rate. And that's where we're at.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part? What part is no change from the tax rate?
Because we are requesting the same amount of money in our warrants as we did last year,
Okay.
there's no change to the tax rate. It's already being taxed at that amount.
Okay, got it.
What was the 350,000?
The 350 was for the CIP, the maintenance trust. And I did look at what David was looking at, the 400,000 in our CIP is actually for the following year, 27-28, not 26-27. So, but
If in the previous year, fund balance was used to fund some of those warrants, and it doesn't get used this year, would that then affect the
that
tax
would
rate?
affect it. But I
Okay.
think that given the small amount that we used, it probably will occur again, but we'll decide that between now and school district meeting and certainly our final. That was a total of $25,000. We do expect to use $400,000 as we did last year from the contingency fund of revenue. So no change there. And I believe you have the proposed budget summary in your packet. I think you also
Yep,
printed
I
that out.
printed the
folks.
one-pager, yep.
You can see on the operations side, 551,000. It's important to note that 270 some odd thousand of operations was special ed increase due to outplacement. So our actual operating outside of special ed is $264,000, pretty nominal amounts. And then the salaries and benefits, 622 and
And the salaries and benefits consistent with every other year, those are the contracted agreements that the taxpayers agreed to.
correct. That is correct. And I had an interesting question from Lauren a few weeks ago, and although I don't think I could break it out exactly, I did go back and look at the projections for each of those contracts for this particular year. And so the salaries and benefits total is $762,000. And when you take those projections, we get to 602,000, and then we have our merit pool for our non-union employees. The long and short of it is we're about $10,000 off in terms of what we projected and where we're at. So
And you don't have a contract this year?
we do not have a contract this year. Thank you.
So this 0.95 is
The tax rate increase.
the tax rate increase. And it's inclusive of warrant articles in that the warrant articles don't have a tax rate increase.
Correct.
And it's inclusive of contracts in that there are no contracts. Okay.
And the good news that as the tax rate got set in the last month, our tax rate actually came in 21 cents under what we projected it to be for this current year. So always a little bit of good news.
Is that this 2025 paper? Okay. So that 2335 is reflective of that already.
So yes. We will have the full presentation for you on January the 7th, in a more detailed breakdown of our process and where the drivers were. And, part of what we're looking at moving forward. I think one of the elements that we've discussed in, Dave's conversation is important is the reason to maintain that same playbook on warrants is tax stability. We feel like those are adequate numbers to put us in the direction we want to go. And if there are going to be increases in the future, hopefully they would be marginal. But it was important this year to maintain that so that we didn't have another uptick in tax rates. And we've had a rough few years between our medical expenses, our special ed expenses, and this year, luckily we don't have it on the medical side. We've got a little bit of an uptick in special ed.
Are you saying that you could argue putting more into the special ed trust because of the history of the last couple of years, but in the interest of maintaining stability as best as we can, we're going to stick to the amount that we put in last year? but you could argue for putting in more because of the
I think
instability.
we have to be careful between me and the board. So speaking, we talked about this a little last night. I think people's comfort zone would be to have about $300,000 to $350,000 in that account. That might be a safe measure for unpredicted outplacements. But we also feel like we need to, take that airplane up at a appropriate angle of attack, so to speak.
Build it
Yes.
instead of
Yeah.
appropriating it all.
And we do have the contingency fund to fall back on if need be, so. And there's 100 in the back of your monthly financial, there's $136,000 in that special education trust now. But yes, building over the next 2 years should get us back to a comfortable place if we don't have to draw it down.
Can I make a comment on the tech trust fund contribution? Is my understanding this year that in the general operating budget, there's now approximately $40,000 to do replacement of Chromebooks. In the past, if that wasn't in the operating budget, then I'm assuming Chromebooks were maybe funded through the tech trust. I know phone systems and auditorium equipment and projectors and other tech falls in there, but if $40,000 is going to be in the operating budget for replacement of Chromebooks, does that 30,000 tech still hold strong? I just didn't see a discussion about that at the school board when
Right.
that was
I
discussed.
think this is sort of like our technology CIP. What do we do if we have servers that go down and things of that nature? That would be expensive. We do want to build up the amount in our budget for Chromebooks, as that seems to be, where we're moving for forever now. And, the new state law about students not being able to use their personal devices has sort of amped that up a bit. One more year before we can, the juniors and senior piece, but.
And then if I may, another comment on the maintenance trust, the 1/3 payment for the performance contract due to CIP request has originally, or has been since its beginning, pulled from the maintenance trust. And I think that's $40,000-$50,000. That's now being an annual operating budget, and I think it landed in two spots, two different
I
locations.
think it landed completely
In facilities, was
Facility,
it? But
yes.
in two parts maybe, and so technically, we're not compensating for that 50,000 coming out of that maintenance trust contribution. I guess you could look at it either way. I'm not saying, I'm just.
You're saying, so theoretically speaking, we're still funding the CIP at 394,000.
Mhm.
Because we're not drawing down the 44 to pay for the performance contract, which is now in the operating budget where it should be. Another thing to keep in mind when they're talking about, $264,000 in operating going up, some of that is because that performance contract is now in the operating budget.
And you think that that's more appropriate place for it?
A much more appropriate place for it.
And I guess follow-up comment on that, and I'm not sure who produces this, but if you look in the annual report or the annual district side, there is an explanation of how that is funded. And I'm just curious, I don't know if that has anything to do with the budget committee, but clearly the lines, the paragraph above the chart of what the repayment is going to need to be somehow denoted and modified, and just a note on that.
All right, any other comments or questions specific to Rob? Okay,
If anybody wants this kind of stuff, let me know and we'll get them printed and you can pick them up at the SAU prior to the meeting, and everything else you'll get via the drive.
I would love it in paper, and I just want to thank the town and the school for putting things in paper. It's so much easier to flip back and forth and to try to fight with a computer.
Yeah, I'll second that. I would love a copy as well.
will it be in the drive?
It will be in the
Okay.
drive. We'll put it in the drive, but for folks that would like it, these were just reprinted with the changes that were made with the $99,000 reduction.
I have mine. Thanks.
I have mine.
All right, so I'm gonna open it. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna open it for public comment just on that. I don't think we're gonna have any spoiler alert. And then I would like the committee to do a little bit of deliberation on what we heard tonight. And then we'll do other business. Sound good? All right, let's open it for public comment on the discussion regarding the school. I see no one here or online, so we'll close public comment. And now if the committee would like to deliberate. So I'll kick us off. I was trying to do math. We'll see how I did. But I added together the tentative school increase of 95 cents and the increase from the town of 31 cents, I think is what I got.
That's right.
Which comes to $1.26, which on which brings us to 24.61 over 23.35 from last year, which is a 5.4% increase in total on the tax rate. Obviously, we will do what we did last year, which is put together a whole summary when it comes time for us to do that. But I just wanted to have everybody here to have that to react to. So with that, does anyone have general comments? How are we feeling? Not asking you to vote, but like reactions or any feedback for the town or the school.
What I've heard so far, I think it's good. We've got some big surprises in there, but all in all, it's sort of evened out. 5% is reasonable. For a town that's got a lot of problems and a real hellish good school system. I'm happy with that. From what I've seen so far, we haven't seen the whole.
Yeah, I should also say last year, 23 to 24 was 6.7%. And then I can't go back more than that because I think the reval.
The reval,
Start.
yeah.
To
Next challenge.
Butts with thing.
Agree with Don.
Great.
Is
Just agree with Don.
Is there a standard accepted percentage rate for both big budgets annually that is out there? I mean,
No.
there is not.
No, so I can tell you, Lauren, what we did last year, is we had a series of debates over like, can we think about this in relation to any inflation indices or like the CPI or like consumer purchasing and any indices that like track. And I can dig that back up. Like I think I had a spreadsheet that mapped those indices going back like a number of years. There is like a municipal one that does track it. But as you could imagine, I mean, even the indices fluctuate pretty significantly depending on like the years. And so there's not like any guidance that can say like you should hit 3% and then you're doing good. What we tried to do last year is just educate the committee on like what the indices were telling us. Like we thought about it in regards to the costs of living that our residents might be, the increases in costs of living on a household basis that our residents might be facing to contextualize it. And we thought about the municipal indices and other, I'm forgetting the name of the one that Rob liked.
Employment cost index
Thank
for
you.
secondary education.
Thank you. To kind of like sort of ballpark ourselves against those. And I don't want to like misstate anything, so I'll go dig up the numbers, but Hopkinton was like maybe a little higher, but not like wildly off historically from those. That's what I remember basically seeing. Some years on track, some years maybe a little higher, but not like, and again, I can dig those up. But that, again, that's just like a consideration. It's not somebody telling you like you get a gold star if you hit this. Yes, Mr.
I was just looking at you.
Oh.
You're the boss.
So we've
You tell
been,
me what to do.
we've been talking about certain kinds of guidance that is findable, but it was mostly related to that debt ratio that we were talking about, a ratio of debt to total valuation. And then also the fund balance retention. And so, I think the guidance said keep between 5% and 19% of your fund balance. And, so we're trying to keep 7.8% of it moving forward. Do you have anything to add about that?
I would just say that some towns have a fund balance policy and, we should revisit that. I don't know if that extends to percentages, but we should look at our financial policies. It was very helpful this year that the select board tasked department heads with coming in under 3%. A couple of them had lines that went over, but they were easily explained. So
Right.
that was very helpful, that guidance.
And going back to that question, Lauren, I do think that like last year we gave guidance that was not numeric, but it was along the lines of we all know what inflation is at, and we think that the like committee needs to see like reasonable estimates to stay aligned. Speaking personally, not as chair, like I do struggle because we have these things that are like, if the operating budget of, for example, the school is tracking like a line in line or below general inflation, and then special ed, for example, nudges that up, that it's very difficult to say, well, we're being flagrant spenders or something when those are like anomalous costs. And again, on the town side with like, we know that we have expenditures related to the sludge and DES requirements and things like that. So again, that my personal view is I would love if every year we could come like, we could just say, yes, our target's 3% and we're going to hit that. And yet we have these like capital expenditures or cleanup requirements or anomalies, and that's tough. So that's my personal view of it.
And then we have many people that feel, why can't we go flat? How much is too much? I hear it a lot. I've been digging through annual reports, trying to collect data, and I found it interesting just going in the 2024 annual report, and on the town side, there were 445 voters, 337 supported the operating budget, and that was 75.7%, and 108 said no, and that was 24-26. And then on the school's operating budget for the same year, there were 420 voters, 273 supported the budget, that's 65%, and 147% said no. And it makes me pause when 25% of our population 2 years ago, we don't have this year's reports, were not in support of an increase 2 years ago, and here we are 2 years later, and then 35% were not in favor. And it may not be just based on actual numbers, but trying to survive and stay in their house. And I think with the reassessments, the cost of homeowner insurance goes up, and I have many people reach out to me struggling. And that moves me to another subject. People have wondered what's the best way to correspond as a whole to the budget committee. And Mark Zankel, former chair, said through Neil Cass, he had set up a independent email for the budget committee. But just for the sake of answering that question, what is the best way for someone who doesn't want to come here, doesn't want to speak, wants to explain their hardships, and it's not a hardship just of this year, but a hardship from 5 years past that's still trying to stay in our community. We talked a lot of the discussion coming out of EDC was about affordable housing. And if you saw the report back from the affordable housing, the taxes are what were cost prohibitive. So I'm looking at 25% and 35% of the people that could make it to vote. I don't know what that percentage breakdown is, that for whatever reason, we're not happy or couldn't get behind the increases. And I just wonder, when is too much too much? Are we, 10 years ago, the operating budget for the school was 10 million less, thereabouts. And I'm not sure what it was for the town, but do we expect a annual 3% increase moving forward in a roughly over 5 years of 5 million increase on the school? I mean, if that's the case, we could say to people, you budget accordingly. So I just want to put a strong plug in for the people that are trying to hang on to their house, trying to buy groceries. And it's not a knock on all the hard work that goes into this. I've sat through all of it. I've been at every meeting, and I know both the select board and school board know I'm there. And it's not a knock. It's because I do care. You know, we're trying to talk about food, going to food pantry, and that's what I wanted to say. And I do want a clear line of communication. I do want to answer
Yeah,
to that.
what-
We don't have to set
yeah.
up an email, but I would like to
So
back to some people.
I don't know what Mark had. When
Yep.
I took on this chair, I knew that nothing was like handed off to me.
Mhm,
So I
yep.
guess I would I know the select board has some select board specific emails. Is there an option for us to have an email that folks
I
can,
think we could
like
probably do that.
a general? I don't know that
Would
every
it-
member needs.
I was
I
going to
think
say,
maybe
just to you.
a general correspondence email. I would seek, if the committee has thoughts, I don't know what the right
School board.
answer is. Yeah.
Public comments are directed to the school board chair.
Mhm.
And then it is put into, we have a folder in
Mhm.
our meeting information for public comments that come in separately.
I would be fine with that.
Okay.
But I have always wondered why, I mean, the town, the select board all have individual emails. At some point, the budget committee should have had, because there may be people that are more comfortable writing to Lauren, or there may be somebody that are more comfortable writing to Vicky or one of the Houstons or something. So it is nice to have that avenue. I understand something that they want brought to a meeting and actually read out as testimony should go to a central email address. But as far as getting, feedback from our constituents, then it might be nice that in the future, if the budget committee members had an email.
So the way it works for me is you click on my name on the website, you fill out a contact form, and that actually comes to my private email. So they don't have my direct email, but they have a way to directly get a message in front of me. So that seems to be, sort of in these times of cybersecurity, like an appropriate avenue. If there was something you could click on that said, contact the budget committee, and then you could click on Steve, or you could click on Krista, or maybe you could click on one that says the chair. I'm not sure how it would look, but that's how it works for me.
I think the select board has created a separate email address. I know, so that they're not using their private email address. They're keeping it separate. I don't know if you guys are doing the same. But I would highly recommend that the contact form go to not your personal email address. So
How easy is it to set up a
Yeah.
fresh email?
I think there is probably, if there was a budget committee one,
It probably still
there's
exists.
probably, it still exists. And if you have like a Krista budget committee email on a Gmail account or something like that, I'm happy to connect that to that budget committee.
Were you
Okay.
gonna say something?
I
Paul?
can follow up with you directly.
Okay.
We should definitely get one set up for me, I
Yep.
think, in the near term. I think that's a good,
I'd
and
start.
then,
for sure.
yeah. And in the near term, we'll get it all in a drive. And then I think let's start there and
Mhm.
see if then, like, if we can figure out how to, does that sound reasonable to folks? I didn't know, like, candidly, if this was like a long-standing thing, because I don't know that Mark had one. I mean, I believe you, but when I would get emails from him, they would come from his personal email. I remember, because I remember thinking to myself, like, I guess we all just use our personal email for this when I joined.
He
at
made a
least.
comment on social media that that's how it was set up
Okay.
from him.
Yeah,
on-
I'll get in touch with
so-
Mark
So,
and I'll see what they've done.
yeah, no, I
historically.
mean, you could certainly ask him. And that was what he said is, he requested it from Neil and Neil somehow set him up with an account.
Yeah.
And then I assume we could all forward something to that. If it was coming from someone
Right.
else, we could keep privacy, but obviously when you send out the agenda and the packet to us, it's all coming to whatever email we signed up with. It's not a
It's not a
budget
budget
committee.
committee, right?
Right, I think, haven't been through a full cycle, but when you run for office, I believe there's a form and we
Mhm.
collect email and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So whatever you have there is where this information's going.
Right.
Another note on that is what started this was a specific person tried to email the chair of the select board, which that's just who they particularly selected, and wrote a pretty heartfelt, lengthy letter. And because of its length, it refused to send and they got frustrated and then kicked it over to me.
Got it.
And it was about hardship and trying to stay in town
Mhm.
and over the income threshold for assistance, but struggling.
Understood.
Regarding the 5.4% increase on the total tax rate with this combined budgets, can Vicky and Karen, can you give us some feedback? You guys generally take the burden of people who are coming in and saying, gee, my taxes are too high. What's your feeling on 5.4%?
I think folks this year with the the overall, I didn't even, do we have that? What was the overall with the 2189 to the, I don't remember calculating that, but people were earlier in the year complaining about the taxes being too much. I haven't heard that much since tax bills went out. I know people are anxious to pay them, but the July revenue was
6.67 year over year,
Okay.
all in, including the county.
Yep.
Yeah, it was 2189 to 2335, and this would be 2335 to 2461.
So it's down 1% or so, roughly.
Yeah,
I know, because we
the-
don't know state and county and all that.
It was 6.7% increase last year, and this year, if these passed, would be 5.4. So it's more than 1% less than the percent increase last year, if that makes sense.
But that's the overall, that also includes county, correct?
Yes.
Which is pretty small. So,
So people who aren't getting at least a 5% raise are hurting.
Right, including maybe our town employees who are getting a 3% raise.
But 15% the prior 2 years,
15?
over 2 years.
I think they had 3 the prior year.
But I can look back the numbers, but it was 15%.
I think it's written in the notes under the merit increase line item. Let's see. If you could help me find that, Karen, I would appreciate
I'm
it.
on page 10.
Okay.
Does that merit go to distributed to everyone, or is it somehow it like someone that went above and beyond gets a more merit than someone that just showed up and it's only worked a quarter year? Do you know how I don't know how merit pool works.
It's for any of that.
Yeah, okay, so it's
Individuals,
there's some discretion on how
Yes,
that's
there- yep.
distributed. Thank you.
So
Support.
So in 2024, the merit increase is 4%. 2025 is 3%. And so we carried forward the 3% again for 2026.
Rob, I think I may have missed this in your presentation, but is the school expecting other revenue to include any like using of the fund balance? You probably stated this, sorry.
Contingency,
Nate.
yes, same
Yeah,
as last.
sorry,
year,
the contingency fund.
$400,000.
Okay. So that's already factored into this estimate.
Rob, what's roughly the contractual increase in salaries and benefits year over year?
If you, again, based on the projections, 602,000. And then 90,000 for our non-union.
Or what's that as a,
That's like a merit pool. That's all the people, the SAU, the principals, administrative assistants, folks that don't fit in any of those contracts. We do have an odd situation where normally our early retirement, well, not normally, our early retirements in the other contracts are built into our operating budget, but for our non-union people, they are not. So when we can forecast that someone is going to be leaving, we need to put that in the budget in that given year. So that's a bit of a bump up this year as well, because we do have a person. I'm gonna let them tell the universe that they're retiring. So, yeah.
so what's that as a percent of the total?
Which one?
The total increase year over year in salaries and benefit.
That I'd have to get for you. You mean from last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head.
I feel like they were all like between 3 and
Oh, you
something
mean
percent.
I mean, in the contract?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 3.8% on the HEA, was 4% on the Teamsters. And the Hess contract was a little bit different percentage wise, because we simply did nominal dollar increases. I don't remember the percentages off the top of my head, because their table is bizarre. So we were trying to get it to them, you make $17.75, that kind of thing.
And along with that, there was percentage changes on contribution on the employee to
Yeah, the healthcare
healthcare.
contributions increased for all parties.
Can I ask
Very
Lauren
glad
a
that we're not in
question?
school care.
Yeah.
Okay. Lauren, obviously there were a lot of people that got excited when you got voted onto the budget committee. You've dug into these numbers more than as much, or if not more than a lot of us on the committee. And now that you're here, I mean, you raised a very good question. Have you like run calculations to see what a flat budget would look like? Or, I mean, what is your take on this, I guess is what I'm asking.
I have not run calculations. I spend a lot of time at meetings and
Mhm.
with the 4 kids and work. I have ideas all day long about it. It doesn't turn off. I think about this constantly, and then get just tangible people within the community telling me how much they're struggling. And when I ran, I did run on wanting to represent them, again, 25% and 35% 2 years ago said, whatever that number was, whether 200,000 less would have satisfied them, we don't know. But there was reason for pause on what was presented. And I wanted to give them a voice here. So I'm going to continually through this process remind the board here that there are people struggling. I have not run flat. I understand if you wanted to run flat and you have a contractual agreement that goes over 3 years, you are going to have to take something out in order to be flat. You can't have a obligated contractual agreement with $500,000 increase without cutting somewhere else. And then when your trash hauling is elevatoring up, that if you sign the contract, it's not just this year, it's
Yeah.
effective from
Yeah.
5 years ago. So therefore, where do you want to cut? So I do understand all of this, and shy of somehow getting revenues or funding elsewhere. I just do wonder where the breaking point is for some people. And I also want to recognize that I can go back 7-8 years ago where people were saying, hey, we can't do this. I mean, Arnold Coda comes to mind. He left town. He would say year after year, and I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, he had concerns about the increases and that he had a mortgage to the town, not to his mortgage company. And I'm not exactly sure of his full departure, but I do know families that made that decision 7 years ago. And, you know, we talk about our community and trying to build the community and do what's best for the community. And, you know, that I hear that the children in the school system are the most vulnerable, but I think there's taxpayers that are most vulnerable as well. And I'm processing, balancing all that. I don't, you know, going flat, it makes sense to increase 5% to the road budget, or we're never going to dig out of the hole. So there's so many things, and I find that, you know, certain people are thrilled about recycling and are thrilled about the schools, or thrilled about what's happening with HISA and the ball fields down there and want a new track, or are into drama and adding football, or, you know, hey, we need better roads, or excited about, you know, hey, I want to make sure that when I call the ambulance at 3 a.m, someone comes to my house, where others don't particularly see that as important. And it, all of that factors in. And if you're just getting to the point of survival mode, trying to stay in your house and say, hey, is my Medicaid, Social Security gonna last? You know, I don't want to pack up my stuff and move. A lot of these people reach out to me. So I am excited to be here. I just want to make sure those people have a voice and it doesn't go unheard. Like 3% on the town, 6% at the school. That's the budget. We can do the same thing, repeat next year, move things around a little bit. There's people that are like, where's the breaking point? And some have broke and left. And I don't know if this is similar to another town. I haven't done comps on what, and I did take some rough numbers and ran that I jotted down on the school side, and I believe there was quite a bit more participants at the school, and it was around 30.1, 30 point something percent that were in opposition to the operating budget. So those numbers clearly would bump around. This is part of actually why I, on the floor, put the operating budgets to ballot vote. I'm one of the 5 that will say, hey, because we can actually get stats. If it says yes or no, you're never going to know. And it's part of why I advocate for SB2. I would like to have a better polling than 15 or 7%, 9% of the community. And if we could get 40% or 30% for a few years and see where they're at, if you saw that those numbers shift closer to 50%, then are we doing our job here? Or are we not? You know, I don't know. Is getting 51% satisfactory if those numbers, I don't know, where is the sweet spot there? Is 35%? Are we failing some community members, or are we doing the right job? It's an ethical thing, you know, it's not wrong or right. It might be right for some, it might be wrong for others.
Yeah, I hear you. I think, I mean, I'm not gonna respond to all of that.
No.
I agree
I
with
mean,
anything
it
you all
was,
respond to, but I will say, like, I don't know that outside of releasing the Epstein files, there's like close to unanimous support for most anything in a democracy. So personally, I don't think we can get to a spot where there's not some portion of the community who would vote in a different way. But I do hear you if you see the numbers tick up over time. More than that, I will share on a personal level that I too read the comments from the housing survey and have heard folks tell me, and through the course of my own family budgeting this year, did some analyses to figure out sort of like what would be the bare minimum I would feel like we would have to make to pay our bills. And that number was a lot higher than I was comfortable with. I guess you could call it, I did like a zero balance, like what is it? zero-based budget or something for my own household. And it made me like truly think like, how are people surviving in this economy, even not just in the town? So like, I completely agree with the like there's truly not a good option here. And then to make it matters worse, it is infuriating to me. I say this every year, but I'm just going to repeat it because it's worth stating that the property tax system unfairly burdens people who are least able to make up for it. Like if you're on fixed income or if you are in a lower income job and your home value is rising, like great, your home value is rising, but like your cash coming in the door to pay your property taxes may not be. And that's like, I do think like this, I don't think anybody on this committee takes it lightly, but like, I just want to state that I certainly do not. Like I'm a proud supporter of the schools. I'm a proud supporter of the roads. I'm a proud supporter of the town, but it is tough. Like you're absolutely right. Like it's, um, I like also lose sleep thinking about like, what are the right decisions here? I don't think there are. So.
3 or 4 separate comments. For
Yeah.
10 years, I've been sitting here. For
Yeah.
10 years, I've been saying we're living beyond our means.
Right.
But the town as a majority have saying that we want to spend this amount of money because we want the town to be the same as it is. And to go back to what your comment about a third and a third or 2/3, I understand as a person who did research for 200 years, and there's always 2/3 against a third. And that whole thing morphs constantly as to whatever the topic is. And I think, we're always going to be in this situation. We're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. I feel for the folks. I've got relatives, I've got friends that have made the decision. They've got to do something different. But again, it's a personal choice. If you want to move to Moultonborough or Sunapee where the taxes are a lot less, but you're not in Hopkinton. And if you choose to be in Hopkinton, you got to make those choices, and they're not easy choices.
It does feel like there's a confluence. I mean, I've only been doing this with you all for like 5 years, but it feels like we have an aging population and this aging infrastructure. And we're, a lot of things are coming home to roost, like with the sewer, that is happening just at the same time that we've got maybe more and more people leaving the workforce.
I also think it's our responsibility as members of the budget committee to go back to the town and say, a flat budget is not possible. It's not reasonable. Like the contractual obligations alone,
Yeah.
plus the special education budget going up, unless we want to renegotiate those contracts and pay the people who work for the town less, or the teachers in the school system less, or increase the class sizes, or reduce the number of ambulances or the available services, which you've said many times, Don, like those are the choices. If people want to make that choice, like that's a reasonable thing. But if you don't want to make that choice, a flat budget is not really on the table here.
Yeah.
But to the flip side of that is you can go back 5, 7, 10 years and those same people may have said, no, I want to stay in my house, and didn't sign up for that contractual agreement, didn't promote that budget that promoted that new item and this and that. And they are in this community as well, but they just in the 2/3, 3
Sure. Yeah.
got overruled. That didn't mean they were wrong or right, but they may not have supported it. So they can strongly say, well, I didn't vote for it, but here I am still paying for it. So
As long as we're still in a democracy, it's the majority vote in essence that's going to decide this.
So you guys have probably noticed that I always ask, is the number of employees going up or is the number of employees going down? I'm trying to find that middle ground. Can we get stuff done without bringing on more expenses? And people are the number one expense. Adding labor force is the number one expense. And if we can find efficiencies in our labor forces, that really helps.
that's why I brought up economic development position. Same concept.
Can I chime in?
Of course you can.
This is not an uncommon conversation. It is happening in all of the towns around us. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we heard it last night.
And we'll make do if you guys ask us to go back and trim, we will, you know, we're resilient. The town is full of experts who know their business and, you know, we have an obligation to the taxpayer and we have an obligation to uphold the services that we all agree we like and want to continue.
May I just piggyback off your comment? Hopefully it's a coincidence, but both towns that we do business in are totally dysfunctional lawsuits, budget shortfalls, overspending, money unaccounted for. I probably don't have to mention the name, but one of them is the next town over. Hopkinton is blessed. We have a first-class select board. I think a very talented budget committee, certainly a great school board. Other than the little things that we find once in a while that our issues arise when human beings do things we are blessed in this town. We have a very good town government, capable administrators at both the school and the town level. So, these are tough decisions, but they could be a lot worse.
Chelsea asked me at our school board meeting a few meetings ago about what's the role of the finance committee on the school board. And I hadn't really thought about it, but 3 words came out, oversight, educate, and communicate. And I really think that's the same role that this committee has. The legislative body ultimately makes the decision. This body essentially looks at those budgets. Are they rational? Does it make sense? Are you asking for fair things? But it's not the budget committee that determines the pathway, it's the voters. And, we just need to do a good job of making sure we've asked all the questions.
Can we go home now?
Yeah, somebody, no, we have to talk about schedule. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
But almost there. Okay, well, I did not hear anyone necessarily say any numbers to put back per se. I will state that I think probably the town and the school both heard the committee voice some reservations in general. Do you want to? That would be super. Thank you. All right, so, our next meeting is the school budget presentation. And Karen, I'm gonna have to ask you to remind me, with the rescheduling that we did, when we canceled 10, okay, this is new. Okay, thanks. Yep. All right, perfect. We will reconvene January 7th. We will reconvene January 14th. We will hold the other 2 slots as needed. And I think that requires no specific changes.
So it's the 14th when we would take like a preliminary vote on the budgets after we've heard from the school, or what's your
Yes.
kind of conception for?
I think we could do it one or 2 ways. We could do a preliminary vote on the school on the 7th when we've heard from the school, and then but I would prefer not to do that. I would prefer maybe actually, hold that thought, Steve, sorry. What are the meetings between the public hearing and and the 14th? Should I assume that both the town and the school meet? Like if we took a preliminary vote
no.
hypothetically on the 14th and it went sideways, would there be time for the boards to adjust between the 14th and the 4th?
Yeah, I think we're gonna meet, what would it be, Karen? We'll be meeting on the 12th of January and the 26th of January. And so then the public hearings are February 4th. So basically between now and the public hearings, we have 3 scheduled select board meetings. We've got one on December 30th, and then we'll have one on January 12th and one on January 26th.
Okay, so you would have one between the 14th and the.
Yes, we would have one. That's true.
Okay.
And we have a meeting on the 20th.
I feel, okay, so you would also have one. Would folks be open to taking a preliminary sort of temperature vote on the town on the 7th? To give them a little bit more time when the school presents, and then we could do a preliminary vote on the school on the 14th.
Sure.
Um,
And are we getting districts on?
I realize that doesn't give the school as much time, Rob. But trying to do what I can.
I mean, the presentation is going to echo the dollars that you have in front of you. So hopefully, you know, that'll give you something to think about, and we'll just add some little meat on the bones as we go through the presentation.
For the next meeting, can we just have somebody provide a handle on what the inflation rate is or whatever? So we can compare that to the
Yeah, I can try to update that sheet from last year.
the access to that stuff.
Yeah, I'll try to bring that to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm.
Do it on my holiday break, Rich.
You do it for fun, right?
Yeah.
Through
All right. Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Thank you.
30 seconds.